at the very least, I'd like to give your son a low taper fade.
Low taper fade.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's Kathryn from the Savants. We are a lifestyle brand for misfits, makers, and mind benders. And we are here. I am so excited to introduce you to someone that I found scrolling late night on TikTok. Justin Pitz from Axe to Grind Barbershop.
Hey, guys. How are you?
All right. From Worcester, Massachusetts. I get it. Right up in my old hood, up in New England. You are doing God's work. I mean, I scroll at night and I see what you're doing, and it just made me. Where were you when my children on the autism spectrum were 2 and 3 and 4, and I was literally in my kitchen trying to figure out how to get a knot in the hair, and no one wanted to give them a haircut. And it's really cool to have long, flowy, beachy hair, but there comes a point where you need some grooming. And then I came upon you on TikTok. So tell us, Justin, you built this with your 2 hands by yourself.
I did. These 2 hands.
Rock on. What did you do?
Well, it's an interesting story. I got a bit of a checkered past, and I come from a bit of adversity. Starting hair altogether. I honestly was addicted to drugs, and I was making a lot of bad choices in my life. And I went to barber school, and somebody said, "What are you doing in your life?" And I said, "Well, I'm not doing anything." And they said, "Well, why don't you sign up for barber school?" And I said, "All right, let me go ahead and do that." And I did, and it really changed the trajectory of my life altogether. I started cutting hair, and I've always been a people person. I've always had, some empathy, and I was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, and I was a good kid, and everybody liked me because I had a good heart, and I was compassionate, but I didn't sit still. I touched everything. I was rambunctious. I was class clown, and nobody really knew how to deal with me, And today, I just try to be the person that I needed when I was younger, and I didn't have that. So I had to really figure it out on my own. And I unfortunately went down a couple of paths that weren't meant for me. And barbering saved my life. I got sober in barber school. I never looked back. And, it's been close to 20 years now. And now I got this opportunity in front of me to not only just run a barbershop where, that kind of took off and it became this big thing in the city. And I tried a different model than most other barbershops. And it's more of like a come as you are and leave as you will. Not just kids on the spectrum or children in general, but really anybody. And we just wanted an environment that people felt comfortable walking into, that wasn't stale and stuffy, and people could feel like they belonged. And it was part of they were part of it, right? So I got this beautiful place. It all happened on a whim. It fell out of the sky, and all the bricks just started to lay into place for me. And I said, well, how do I fight this? I got the other side of my barbershop, which is what we had first, on a handshake and $1,000 check and no first class security. And I was off to the races, and we got chairs in here. We started cutting hair. And as we did, people started giving us things and gifting things. And this place started to grow. And when we first had it, we had no cool decorations. We had no neon signs. And we were just so grateful for this place. And I didn't have to work in a barbershop that was, with sports or, where people were just disingenuous and, talking crap about the people when they left the building. And it just none of it was really for me. I wasn't really into the big barber scene and the big, shows and all this ego stuff. I just wanted to be a pillar in my community and give back a little bit the best way that I knew how. Fast forward, I had a couple of friends that had kids on the spectrum, and I've always loved kids. I always hung around. I got 5 uncles my immediate family on my dad's side, like 23, 24 people. And I was always with the kids. I was always playing with the kids. I'm a big kid myself. There's something special about children that there's no ulterior motive. There's nothing behind what they're saying. They say how they feel, and they tell you the truth. And that's something that we've lost over time in society and with people. And everybody has an ulterior motive, or everybody's like, let me say this so they think that and I can get this. And I just like that kids are like, you're fat. And they just tell you how they are. And it's a rare thing, So I had a kid, a client that had her son, he was probably under 2 years old, severe nonverbal. And I was like, let me give it a shot. First haircut went without a hitch. It was great. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe I got something here. Well, second haircut wasn't so great. And it started to, I see that a lot of times when they're younger, they do well because they don't know any better. And then they can realize that I don't need to make this easy for him. Let me give him hell and throw a fit. So, full disclosure, back then, we didn't know any better. And we used to hold kids down and shave their heads or do whatever we had to do to get the haircut done. Fast forward, people started talking about it. Mom started hearing about it. More people started coming in. I started to get more experience. I remember one, and it reminds me of you because we have this one client, Christina, and she had come in. She had 2 twins that were severe nonverbal. They got pregnant again. They said, hey, what are the chances? Well, wouldn't you bet they had 2 more twins, severe nonverbal. The first were maternal, the second were paternal. 4 kids under the age of 5, severe nonverbal. This poor woman had a lot to deal with, right? So she would bring her kids in and they would raise hell. I mean, these kids would come in and rip stuff off the chairs and she could tell she was like, as I'm sure you understand, she was apprehensive. She was nervous. And I said, Mom, go sit over on the couch and be a mom. It's okay. We're going to let them do whatever they need to do. I mean, I'm talking sometimes they were standing on their heads and
oh, yeah.
And there were times where they would all get good haircuts. But I do remember one time specifically where one of the kids got a successful haircut. The other kid, Reed, did not. We were cutting Reed, and it just so happened in the process, my manager, Mike, he was kind of holding him. I was trying to cut him, and we ended up getting too much. We had to basically shave his head, right? The mom's pissed, obviously. She's like, that's not what I wanted. And then she wanted us to cut the other kid's hair like that. And I said, wait a minute. He had a good experience. Let's not traumatize him just because his brother had a bad experience. And that's when something clicked for me. And I realized there's a better way to do this, right? And we don't have to do it like this anymore. She sat on the floor and cried. And I said, hey, you own that. You deserve that cry. You do what you need to do. We're doing that. And she was kind of upset. And I was as politely as possible, like, hey, look, we're doing everything we possibly can for you, Christine. And unfortunately, this is what happened today. I'm not comfortable holding your other kid down and shaving his head after he's had a good experience. For a while, that's all I knew, right? Then
Respect. Just gonna throw this in. You learned the thing that is so difficult, like with autism or especially the human experience is the delicate respect. And well,
if I held you down and shaved your head, you'd be like, well, that was not a good experience. And I don't think I ever want to go back there. So why do we do it to kids? Right. It became something to me, and it became something that I realized I could make a difference. I didn't see anything big in it. I just thought, this is what I do. This is my job. I've had barbers before that'll like sit and looking at me and they're like, he doesn't want a haircut. And it's like, well, the bad guy doesn't want to go to jail, but the cop still has to do his job. Like you have to find a way to make them like you and trust you. And I'm just generally good with kids. So a lot of them are like, hey, this guy's safe. Fast forward, I did that for a long time. I got discouraged because I'm like, man, I'm out here really doing some things. And you got this whole barber community that's focused on the wrong type of stuff. And they're sharing these barbers that are just these celebrity barbers that wear their fancy bracelets and they're, it's not a real barbershop. We don't spend 2 hours on somebody's haircut to make it look flawless and perfect. Like, what can you do on an hour lunch break, half-hour lunch break? And so I just kind of dove into this and said, hey, let's bring all the kids. Send your kids down. I'll cut them. Don't worry about it. I got it. I got all this really good feedback. And then somebody had hit me up. I don't really want to mention the name so much because it didn't work out between us. I don't want to drag them up and I don't want to drag them down. But I took some training in Florida that I was going to be an educator to teach people how to cut kids on the spectrum. And finally, I got some recognition and I was like, wow, this is great. I took the training in Florida. And in that training, I realized something. I realized I'm more than likely autistic and that there's a better way to do this, right? I learned the ins and outs of what autism is, what it takes to be diagnosed with autism, the different wheel of all the domains that come along with it and really what it is rather than just like a kid that's doesn't look you in the eyes and is, not very good socially and hates haircuts. And what I found is that these kids are amazing. I mean, they're some of my favorite clients that I've ever met. And they're so smart. they are not stupid people. They just learn differently, just like me and just like you. You know, I was a class clown in school. I was not stimulated enough. I passed the test because I was smart, but it was boring to me, you know? And they said, you have ADHD. And it's like, well, that's funny because if I'm reading about space or something that I'm obsessed with, I'm hyper focused. You know, it's not, it's just, I just learning different. So once I took that training, everything really kind of unfolded for me. And I realized that we don't need to hold kids down. And there's an easier way to go about giving them a better experience. Basically, we got to create trust, not trauma, right? So when I came back from that training, everything started to happen really fast. I started to get really good at what I was doing. And I started traveling the country, training other barbers how to do it. Somewhere along that, I realized it wasn't for me. I don't want to get out there and sell a curriculum to somebody and say, hey, this is important. Every mom should be able to have this knowledge, this and that, but then turn around and sell it to you. If it was that important and if I was that passionate about everybody being able to have this information, I would just give it out for free. Yeah. So I stepped aside. I was traveling too much. I wasn't getting compensated. I had a family back here and a barbershop to run, and it just really wasn't working out. But in that time, I got really discouraged. And I said, damn, that was my shot. I just stepped away from the limelight, so to say. And, you know, maybe I ruined it for myself. And through that process, I've been pushed to grow and I've been pushed to fight adversity. And I've been clawing and scraping my way over the last year and a half to where I am today. And the exciting part about what we do today is between just me and Phil, who's my partner in this, I've basically taught him everything I know. I mean, we do anywhere from 4 to 10 sensory haircuts a week. So I'm making results, you know, and I have the footage and the pictures and all this to prove that we are actually out there changing lives, you know. And then I started the TikTok, which brought me to you. And I'm 41 years old, almost 41. I'm 40 years old. I'm not a big technology person. And I've always kind of just been like, that's not for me. What I realized is TikTok's a great platform. It can get you in front of people that don't follow you. And it's probably the most one for that, which is how you found me. And now if you were on Instagram, maybe you wouldn't have found me because that seems to only go out to people that already follow you. Mm-hmm. So I said, geez, why don't I give it a shot? And I made a TikTok. Second video I posted, I got 140,000 views. And it was just like very overwhelming. And it was a simple little video. You probably saw it. Pans to the right, Phil's cutting the kid sitting on the footstool of the barber chair. And then it pans to me sitting on our bench, cutting one of my clients, and people loved it. And it was just like, it was very overwhelming. I got so much, you know, feedback from it. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then I had all these moms saying exactly what you said in the beginning. Where were you when my kids were younger? Where are you now? Can you come to Pensacola? Can you come to Connecticut? Can you come to Arizona? Please, we need your help. This is so great. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm in tears. All this really beautiful stuff. And so I said, geez, well, how can I help these moms? How can I do this? You know, I'm only in Worcester County. There's a small radius of people that to this day, I have people that are driving 2 or 3 hours to get to me. But that's not enough. You know, there's 1 in 36 kids diagnosed with autism today. 10 years ago, it was 1 in 156. So what's it going to be like 10 years from now? You know, and my thought was, if you're a barber, then like, it's not like a matter of when or if you're going to get a neurodivergent kid in your chair. It's literally when. And when it happens and you're not prepared for it, you're going to look really foolish when you don't know how to do your job. So, you know, then I thought about, well, geez, I used to train barbers, right? Now I think about that and I'm like, is that as impactful? And personally, I don't think it is. You know, I got nothing against the industry, and there's at least a handful, 4 or 5 people that are in this country that are doing something similar to what I'm doing. And I've recently reached out to them and became their ally because I don't gatekeep. This is something that needs to be shared with everybody. And it's not just my industry. I mean, I can teach this to dentists. I can teach this to doctors. I can teach this to almost anybody that works in the service industry for any individual. And so I said, well, geez, how can I help these moms And then I'm like, well, I always wanted to do this little kind of mobile type of thing. And I love traveling and I love meeting new people. So I'm like, maybe I could just go directly to them. But then I said, well, how am I going to how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to compensate myself? And then I thought, well, let's say I was to drive to you and cut your 2 boys. Like, I can't expect you to compensate me to do that every 2 months. That's be a fortune. So I thought, well, maybe I can just don't raise my money through, a nonprofit and through funding, and I can pay myself a salary and I can travel directly to these kids and offer them a haircut and do it for free. Right. But then I thought, let's say I come to California and I cut your 2 kids and you're like, wow, what a great experience. They don't even let people touch them. And you just gave them a skin fade design with a razor blade. Holy moly, Then I leave and then you're like, well, what am I going to do now? Justin's in Worcester. I'm in California. How am I ever going to get this experience again? So then I figured, well, I'm going to travel directly to the kids. I'm going to do it for free. And then I'm going to leave the information with the parents so they can advocate for themselves at their local barbershop. And they can go and say, hey, they can go to Steve's barbershop and you would say, let me find the nice guy. Let me find the guy with the heart. Hey, Brian, you're going to cut my son's hair and we're going to pay you twice, but you're only going to cut him once. First time, you're going to sit down, play video games with him, go outside to the park, whatever it is. Get him to like you, get him to trust you, and get him to know you. And then you're going to cut his hair, right? Because I found that, like, if I met you in the park and I was like, hey, Kathryn, can I cut your hair? You'd be like, get away from me, weirdo. You got face tattoos. What do you want, drugs? Like, what's going on? But if we sat and talked and we had a little conversation and you're like, oh, I got twin boys and they're on the spectrum. I said, well, I'm a barber. I cut kids on the spectrum. And then you get to know who I am as a person. And I'm like, hey, let me cut your hair. And you'd probably be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Well, it's the same thing with kids. You can't just be all scary with sharp, shiny objects. Say, wow, get in the chair, get a haircut. You gotta make them feel like they're safe and that they're welcomed and that they're okay. And sometimes through my haircuts, I might say it 100 times. You're safe. You're okay. I'm your friend. We are buddies. You're okay here. Because we forget that we tell kids that scissors are dangerous, and then we go near their eyeballs with them and expect them to sit still. So it's really just kind of turned into this whole thing. And then now I just filmed a GoFundMe for my nonprofit and we're getting ready to go. And I'm trying to get a bus that's in Oklahoma and get it here and get it renovated, put a nice engine in it where I can safely get around the country. And every other month, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks to just travel to a new area and do haircuts for free. And hopefully the goal is to get to the kid. And let's say if it was your kids who already had an experience in a barbershop, that's going to be a little extra work. I might say, hey, Kathryn, I'll be in the area from this time to this time, and we're going to come work with your sons from 3 to 5 every day. And we're going to get them open to the idea of getting haircuts. Yeah. Right? Now, if you had a new child who hasn't had a haircut yet, that's who we really want. I want to get to your child and I want to give him a good experience before he walks into a traditional barbershop environment. And what that will do is make it that no barbers need training to cut kids on autism because we've already worked with them and got them a good experience. So I have one client that I've been cutting for over close to 3 years, and he still has a hard time. He had a really bad experience at Snippet. And we got a decent haircut. He's the one on the thing. He had the spiked hair. He's doing, he's doing all this. You might have saw the video. We get a haircut, but it's a lot of work. Now, his brother is 18 months old and is also diagnosed. And I'm the only one that's ever cut his hair, and he sits just fine. So that's what told me one bad experience can be a lifelong struggle for kids, where if you have good experience, chances are you'll be able to go to Costa Rica and get your kid a haircut on vacation, no problem.
What you said about your own diagnosis and your own discovery and your own path and story, basically, I mean, there's a reason that I found you scrolling on TikTok, and it's more right. Me being a mom that was trying to figure out haircut. It's you're a misfit, you're a maker, you are better, you're thinking outside the box, and you have been on that frequency and vibe yourself where you've been misunderstood. And so when you're with a kid, you are tapping in to their energy and saying, hey, I'm with you. I'm going to ride the roller coaster with you. And, to this day, like, there's only a few people that can cut my kids' hair. There's only 2. one of my boys, he got a hero award a couple years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
My kid's from Taka, and the autism community in action. And we were going to go get his haircut on Sunday, the one place. And before we left the house, he went to go get his medal that they gave him. And he went to go show it to the woman that cuts his hair. I mean,
that's awesome.
They don't have conversation. And it was like, awesome. He wanted to show it to her because they had that connection.
Yeah.
And it was like she had been through something with him and she had respected him.
Yeah.
And when he was we'd been in there with a therapist to like acclimate. And she had told me that I said, thank you for working with us. And we would set an appointment when it wasn't too loud, when, on a Sunday at a certain time.
Right.
And she says, everyone deserves a haircut. And she, I will always cut a child's hair and spend the time and make an appointment. And she says, there's so many places that will not cut a child's hair, and that is wrong. Mm-hmm. It just blew me away that my son, who hasn't really had a conversation with her, he's just had cut, and they've had
connected.
Pleasure.
He felt safe and he felt understood.
Yeah, he wanted to show her the medal, and
beautiful
because they went through this experience.
Yeah.
So
I've actually had a similar experience. Like it's just, I don't just do autism. I have kids with Down syndrome. I have kids with cochlear implant. Before I got into autism, I was working with at-risk youth kids and kids in the city. I mean, I'll occasionally pull somebody off the side of the street and be like, you look cool. I want to cut your hair. Tell me your story. And we had these kids one time, they were 3 kids and they obviously came from a tough background. And I could sense that. And there was one of the kids that would always come in and never get a haircut with his friends. And I said, what's up? Why are you not getting a haircut? Is it because you don't want a haircut? And I could tell something was up. And I pulled him aside. And it's because he didn't have any money. And his parents didn't want to give him any money. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you free haircuts forever. As long as you're a good kid, you stay out of gangs, and you stay away from drugs. And I did. And I cut him. And then I ended up cutting his brother. And I remember his brother came in and he had to go to like a prom. And my daughter was with me. And I stayed late to cut the kid. And this kid was between 14 and 16 years old. And he looked over at my daughter. I could cry even thinking about it. He looked over at my daughter and he said, I really appreciate you letting your dad do this for me. I know that he'd probably rather be spending time with you, but this means a lot to me. And just for a 16-year-old kid to be selfless like that and really look my daughter in the eye and say, thank you, this means a lot to me. It shook me. And it really it did something to me. You know what I mean? And I started cutting those kids for a while, and they came in every couple of weeks. And the first kid that I cut, the one brother that I originally cut and then started cutting the other 2 brothers, he came in one day and he had something in his hand and he just walked in the door and he went like this. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I look and it's his diploma from middle school that he just graduated middle school. And it was so special to me because I can only assume that he didn't have anybody to show that to. He didn't have anybody that was going to be proud of him. And he came in and the first person he wanted to show it to was his barber. And I cried. And I was just like, that is a very powerful thing for me to see. And I didn't cut his hair because I wanted something out of it. I just saw that he needed something and I helped him out. And his brother that said sorry, he was like, oh, I just want to line up with his prom. I'm like, dude, I'm giving you a full haircut. And I gave him a great haircut. He had a good environment. But something about that kid coming in that day and showing me his diploma really changed for me and made me realize that, like, this is so much more than just cutting hair. Like, being a barber is like, I mean, I'm so grateful that I have this. It literally saved my life. Like, I would probably be dead if I never showed up at that barber school that day. And now
you invested in him. You made a personal decision to make an investment in something. And everyone deserves dignity, human care. Everyone deserves the same respect and human care. And you gave him dignity, care, and a purpose. And obviously you did that for yourself. And, I wish we could have a Savants pop-up. Like you said, I don't gatekeep either. I wish we could have the Savants headquarters have an axe to grind pop-up.
We can. There's nothing saying we can't.
Everybody gets a haircut.
Yeah, we definitely could do that. I mean, in a few weeks, I'm going to be traveling out to Ohio and go and cut some kids for free and just getting this started. I mean, I'm not a very organized person. I'm ADHD, OCD, probably on the spectrum. Sometimes I get horse blinders on and I fixate on this idea and I'm like, this is it. This is what I have to do. And I'm going to do anything to make it happen. So right now I'm trying to put a team behind me of people that can do the things that I can't. And, you know, I've been really nervous about it. I've been really scared. I've had a really rough couple of years, just with business and personal and the pandemic and just everything that's been going on, all the negativity around.
Yeah.
You know, we're working with we have a fiscal sponsor right now. A fiscal, so they're of the Rice Foundation. We do all the Asian work with them. We've been to Southeast Asia twice. We raised 50 grand. We brought medical equipment, school supplies, footwear. I broke my collarbone in Vietnam and had to take emergency flight home. It was nuts. The barbershop got broken into while we were gone. Like,
oh my God.
That trip was life-changing. You know, we went to orphanages and schoolhouses and we just cut all these little Asian kids for free. And it was phenomenal. And it really made me realize that like there's a bigger impact that can be made. So right now I'm trying to put everybody together to make this happen. And some of us don't know where to go or where to make the first step. And I'm like, we just need to make the first step. That's all you got to do. It's just jump in, do the first thing, and everything else is going to follow in place. So I said, Phil, we're going to get in your car. We're going to drive to Ohio. We're going to cut this kid's hair. We're going to go to one of my partners for the nonprofits in Ohio. And we're going to go to his son's school and we're going to cut some kids there. And we're just going to film it and put together some content and see what happens from there. And I just don't see this not really starting to grow really, really, really fast.
It's like a simple act of kindness. It's like one simple, one movement. You know what you talked about being all over the place. And it's like, I'm just going to go with this idea, you know.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, for me, like the Savants, something came to me about some things about the Savants, like at like 2:30 in the morning. And I said, this is it. This is it. This is it. And I always feel like creatively, it's almost like, I don't know, it's like coming down from a higher source. And
100%.
It's always happened to me creatively. With my work as an actor and any idea that I was producing, it's like, and
I'm actually kind of an actor. I was in a Pepsi commercial when I was younger. I used to model and all this stuff. And I wish I could. I've been trying to get a hold of Pepsi to get it because my grandfather was called Pepsi Pitz because he was in the military and he didn't drink and he drank Pepsi, and it's just a whole full circle thing for me.
Hey, let's tag Pepsi. Pepsi.
Seriously, yeah. If I need that video, Pepsi, I need it. Okay, I was like this. Oh wow,
Pepsi, you need to sponsor Acts to Grind. Come on.
Yeah.
Can we ask you a couple of our standard Savants questions?
Yeah, sure.
What does the word savant? You know, we're called the Savants. We are a lifestyle brand for misfits, makers, and mind benders. What does the word savant mean to you?
Well, right off the rip, I kind of just immediately go to the old school phrase, the idiot savant, right? And I feel like that's me, right? Like there are a lot of things I'm not really good at. I don't know my times tables. I'm 41 years old, but what I do know, I know really well, and I'm very, very good at. And I know the traditional meaning of savant, but like some of these kids that I meet are so special in so many ways. We have one child that you can tell him any date and he'll tell you what day of the week it is. I mean, you could say April 12th, 1933, and he'll be like, Wednesday. And he's right every single time. And that's just, to me, so special. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because I am who I am, and either love me for me or don't love me at all. Yeah. But there was a time where I was like, you know, my wife was pregnant with my son, and secretly under my breath, I was like, I hope he has autism. Like, they're just the most amazing kids.
You said, I hope he has autism?
I hope he has autism. I was like, I was almost like praying for that, because these kids are just so special, and they're so unique, and they're like, they say you meet one kid with autism, then you've met one kid with autism, and that's really it, you know.
You know what? Can I love what you just said, because you know a lot of it's April, Autism Awareness Month, and there's a lot of moms that are about ready to get a diagnosis, and you know I've been there. I have had a double diagnosis spanning the spectrum. It's a big word.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's a lot to it. There's the good days, there's the bad days, and there's the quirky. Everything's quirky and everything's celebrated. Right. There's times where it's very challenging. And I don't like the word challenging and struggle and patience and, oh, you're so patient and they're so smart. But you and I know different. If you could share with our audience, like, hey, our child was just diagnosed on the spectrum with autism. What kind of advice would you share?
Well, first off, I would say, one, what a blessing. You have a child that's healthy and alive. Some people don't have that. And two, what I would say is, it doesn't really mean much other than the fact that you might need to be a little bit more patient and treat them like a human. And that's what I do. I don't do anything different. I'm just a little extra patient and I treat them like human. I do bring up a lot of the TV show Love on the Spectrum, and that it doesn't mean that they can't have a fulfilling life. It doesn't mean that they can't get married and have kids and be a professor and go to school. And it just means that you need to find out exactly what works for them. And you need to meet them where they're at and embrace the things that make them them, right? Maybe he doesn't like to go play football, but maybe he knows everything about every single star up in space. And that's fascinating, and it's going to be okay. And there's a whole community of people that are here for you. And I don't even like saying that because it's with any kid. It takes a village. I have 3 kids. It's not easy. It's hard being a parent. It's hard being a dad. It's hard being a boss. It's hard having all of these stresses and people relying on me where, well, who do I get to rely on, right? But you're not alone. And they're not different. They're not stupid. They're not challenged. They're children and they learn differently than other children. And that's really it. That's pretty much the bottom of it. How
about when they say, how about a mom that is wondering, well, what if my child is nonverbal? My child is not communicating with me. My child isn't speaking to me. What would you say to that parent?
I would say right now they're not speaking to you, but there are ways that can improve and get better. For instance, I have probably my best client ever, little Luca. Went to school with his dad. We went to high school together. We were best friends. And they brought him to snippets at first, and he had a bad experience. The mother was in tears. He was in tears, and they didn't know what they were going to do. They heard of me. They brought him to me. He came in severely nonverbal, didn't say a word. Hated haircuts, screamed, yelled. I did what I could to help him out. We slowly worked at it. Fast forward a few months, he starts coming in with a pad. Justin, thank you, haircut. And he starts using the talk pad. I'm like, hey, this thing's cool. Can we teach him swear words on this thing? And then everything's starting to get better. And then before you know it, he's got a skin fade design with a little swoosh. And basically he went from being the awkward kid with autism in his school to the cool kid with cool haircuts, right? Fast forward, I want to say somewhere between 2 and 3 years of me working with him and cutting his hair. At 7.5 years old, his first words ever were, "Mom, haircut, Justin, please." And we all cried. I mean, the first words he's ever said in his entire life at 7 years old were, "Can I please have a haircut from Justin?" So if that right there doesn't tell you everything, then I don't know what else to say. Kids are tough. Kids are hard. All kids, neurotypical, neurodivergent. They're kids. You have to find a way to connect with them. I didn't have that. I was sit down and shut up. Stop being rambunctious. Stop touching things. Can't you just listen in school? Can't you just, here's some Adderall? I mean, well, I think back then it was like Ritalin or something. Here's this, here's that. Yeah. Nobody took the time to say, hey, Justin, what do you need? You know what I mean? And now we have there's a school out here in Paxton that's Turn Back Time. And it's an outdoor school where the kids learn real stuff like how to shear sheep and do farming and, balance a checkbook and do stuff that actually matters in life. And I'm like, man, what if I had that when I was a kid? Maybe I wouldn't have been like the class clown, or maybe I would have got better grades.
What's the name of that school?
It's called Turn Back Time in Paxton, and it's a wonderful place.
Oh, that sounds
even in the winter time, the kids you send them in snow clothes. They eat in the barn. It builds resilience. It lets them build confidence when they give them hammer and nails. And I'll kind of do the same thing with my kids. Like sometimes I'll hand these kids with autism a pair of scissors, and the moms are looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to show them that they're not dangerous. And look, buddy, here's how you use them. And this is how you open and close them. You get them involved in it and you get them like a part of what you're doing, and it becomes something different. You can't just sneak attack a kid with, look over there and start to cut his hair with clippers. They're smart. They know what you're doing. But if I'm like, hey, bud, look at these clippers. They're really cool. This is what I'm going to use to make you look handsome and make you look cool. They don't hurt. Let me touch it to your hand. See? No big deal. Would you like to cut my hair? Like, whatever I have to do. And you can see that wall break, down for them. So it's like the moms that are out there, like, I hate to say it, but it's like it's kind of a blessing in disguise. And I'm a little bit jealous that you get to hang around with somebody so cool like that every day. And I don't, It's a beautiful thing. And there's just so many kids that come in that I just fall in love with right away. Cause I'm like, this kid is the cool. I have one kid that he's a bit older than most of my children. So I get to talk to him a lot and I love it because he likes finding water towers on my iPhone when he's on Google Map, and he'll find them in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, how did you find that thing? And then one day he gets up and he wants a little break. So I let him run around the shop and he's running laps, and we have a big PA system in back for the comedy shows we do and stuff. And the mom's like freaking out. She's like, no, don't touch that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You said he likes buttons, right? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, go ahead, buddy. Now, this thing's been broken for 8 months. We couldn't figure it out. Within 2 minutes, this kid's like touching all the buttons. Hello. It's all through the speakers. I'm like, you fixed that? I'm like, dude, we've been trying to get that word for 8 months. I'm like, you're the man. And it was just like really, really cool. And I just love the experiences that I have with these kids. And like, if you are a mom and you do have a new diagnosis, like, one, don't be sad. Don't be scared. There's people like you. There's people like me. There are people out here that are offering help and that have it. And bring them down for a haircut, and maybe you'll see things change, But it's not as scary.
It's good. It's a lot. You know what? Justin, you could give a master class on what inclusion means. The world should take notes from Justin Pitz. The world should take notes from Axe to Grind.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do over here at the Savants. They are the coolest community, and with Autism Awareness Month coming up, the world needs to catch up to the philosophy of what you're sending out there, and that's what we do at the Savants.
Well, it's like, nowadays it's the whole inclusivity thing is a hot word. It's a hot take. Like, we're all inclusive. We're all inclusive. We're all inclusive. And, I got a colleague around here that used to be my friend that they run a queer tattoo shop, right? And I get what you're doing. You're making a safe place for your community and your people to come through. And that's really great. However, if you're going to say, like, we only hire gay people, that's not very inclusive. Like, what about, I like gay people. I want to go in there and get a tattoo, but now I can't because people don't understand what it means to be all inclusive. But all inclusive means all inclusive. Okay. Yeah. Not just kids that sit still, not just, hey, mom, why don't you control your kid? Hey, sorry, mom, you're going to have to leave. We can't, you're embarrassed. You know how many moms come in and they're like, how many barbershops have been kicked out of? You know how many people just refuse to give us service? It's like, as a barber, why would you want to not be able to give anybody service? Like, I want to be able to do everybody that comes into my door, white, black, purple, brown, straight, gay, autistic, neurodivergent, neurotypical, it doesn't matter. Everybody deserves a haircut.
And not just in April. How about in May? If you need a haircut in April, May, June, July, August, Justin's got you covered.
Right.
What are you looking forward to? Tell us about your nonprofit.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to the future right now, and everything's happening very fast, and it's very overwhelming, but it's very exciting. And last night we filmed our GoFundMe video to launch this, and it made everything very real. And I sat here alone, and I cried for a good 20 minutes, and it's just like, I've been working so hard at this for over 10 years. It's just break out into this industry on what I know how to do better than most people. And for it to be like just right in front of my fingertips it's very, very important to me. I've completely changed my life. I'm getting up early in the morning. I'm reading self-help books. I'm meditating. I'm taking cold baths. I'm doing everything I possibly can to prepare myself for what's about to happen. And we are going to call the nonprofit the Hairy Lungs Foundation. And the reason that I called it that is because I read a story a long time ago about a barber that cut hair for 60 years. And when he died, they gave him an autopsy and they opened him up and he had a whole bunch of hair inside of his lungs. And I thought that was really, really cool. And I thought, man, what am I going to use that for? That's such a cool name. I can't change my Instagram because everybody knows me as Barber Pitt. So I held on to it. And then all this started to happen. And I said, you know what? That's going to be the name of the nonprofit. And one, because I don't want it to just be in the wheelhouse of autism. There's much more that we can do with helping kids get to barber school, helping at-risk youth kids, doing the Southeast Asia Coalition. But I want this to not just to be something that only Axe to Grind can do. And what I see is like a Wu-Tang Clan situation where maybe Kathryn has Kathryn's barbershop. I got Axe to Grind. Phil's got Phil's barbershop, and everybody's doing their own thing throughout the year. But a few times a year, we all come together for this main album of this charity that we're doing to help kids with autism. So meaning you could work at a barbershop out in California, but still be a part of Harry Lung's Foundation. And maybe you get a van or a bus that's in California, and you're going to take up some areas over there. So our slogan is going to be a breath of fresh air, which we were trying to come up with the idea. And that just came out of me. And I'm like, dude, that's perfect. Because moms walk in and they say, oh my God, what a breath of fresh air. This is so beautiful. Thank God for not kicking me out and let me scroll on Instagram like a mom and you deal with my kid and I don't even have to worry about it. But then it ties in the hairy lungs thing where if you take a breath of fresh air, you're going to have hairy lungs, right? So it's just perfect. It just all worked out together, you know? So now we're getting all the legal stuff. We're putting the board together. We're launching the nonprofit. We have a fiscal sponsor, the Rice Foundation, which we've worked with before in Asia. They're going to start taking our donations so people can, write it off for a 501c3. It's going to take about 5 months to a year for us to get all our paperwork together. We have a bus in Oklahoma that we found that's so cool and so perfect. And we want to try to buy that bus. We want to try to get it back to Massachusetts. And then we're going to gut it, renovate it, put a brand new engine in it, install a couple barber chairs in the back, and have a mobile station that we can drive directly to individuals and give them a good experience before they walk into a traditional barbershop experience. And we're going to do it for free. So I need all the help I can get, whether that's sharing, donating, spreading the word, telling your neighbor, telling your barber, whatever it is. This is something that is set to really change a lot of lives very quickly. And we could end up being global and do it in every other country because most of the kids I have are nonverbal. So I don't really need to speak their language. So
all the moms that have kids, all the moms on and off the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
We need to tag Axe to Grind. We need to tag.
Please.
How do we tag?
We have an Instagram. My Instagram is barber_Pitt. You can find everything from there. We have Axe to Grind Barbershop. And then we just made one for the foundation, which is the Hairy Lungs Foundation.
The Hairy Lungs
Foundation. So. And then, of course, my TikTok is Barber Pitt, and that's the one that's all dedicated to only sensory stuff. And we're going to see what we can do and how many lives we can impact and how quickly we can do it. But I don't see this not being successful, and I don't see us not a year from now traveling the country, and we'll be out in California before you know it, and we'll be able to do something together.
Well, it all starts with one haircut. Look,
that's it.
One haircut to a diploma to a global movement. Look what you've done. Look what you've done with your Justin. Look what you could have done, and look, you could have been that misfit that. Yeah. This kind of. I could have been. Could have been dead like half of my friends, And I'm so glad that this last year was a tough one. It really was, and it wasn't because of drugs. It wasn't because of finances. Just the pressure of life all coming down. And I truly believe that everything that's happened to me, both good and bad in my life, has been preparing me for what's coming next. And I'm not taking this lying down. I'm taking this as seriously as I possibly can because I've had so many moms reach out to me begging for my help. Like, please help us, please help us, please help us. And how do I say no to that? Yeah. So we said yes to that. And we're going to just continue saying yes until we get to where we need to be. You are the masterclass on inclusion for this world, starting from a simple barber chair to across the world, to Vietnam, to here in our interview on the Savants. You know what? I woke up this morning and I saw you again on TikTok with a story, and it said, just be patient and meet them where they are. And I thought, oh, wow, like that was me yesterday. It was me in the grocery store with my boys. Like we'd gone to like go tour a school. And on the way home, we stopped to like go to the grocery store. And it got real loud all of a sudden. And I thought, oh, like, we're pretty good with noise at this point. And I thought, we just had to like slow everything down. And I always remind myself, like, we have to just meet each other where we are. And we all like just took a moment, went back to the car, and here you are doing it on a daily basis. If it's with the big wheel with scissors, if it's letting the kid go wild, letting him be a Tasmanian devil. But
I've cut kids on the street. I've cut them in the back stairwell. I've cut them in the bathroom. I've cut them laying on the floor. We, frequently cut kids in a big wheel as they're driving around the shop. We cut kids as they're walking, like whatever it takes. And you know what? I've learned that because sometimes it can be tough. When I first brought Phil in, Phil's the most compassionate person I've ever met in my entire life. And I knew from the second I met him that this is why he was put in my life, and I'm going to teach him everything I know. And in the beginning, he was almost too compassionate, where he would just walk around and he didn't want to push the kid too much. And sometimes it takes for me to push that boundary, right? I can tell he's apprehensive about the scissors, but I'm going to push that, and I'm going to push that until I have to push back to where he's like, no, and he bleeps out, and then I pull back. And every time I do that, the child realizes, oh, wait, this guy might be here for me. You know what? He's pushing me to do something. I say it all the time. I'll never push your kid to do something that they don't want to do, but I'll push them to do something that I know they can do. Right. And when I push them and then I pull back, every single time it gets better and easier because they realize, okay, Justin kind of made me, he was starting to do something I didn't really like. And then once I had too much, he pulled back and he gave me a break. And then he went back at it. Right. Because if I don't do that, then I'm going to spend the whole time just following the kid around. Yeah. So when we started this, right now we do an hour-long appointment for $60. And we spend that time to rehabilitate your child. And sometimes we might not even get a haircut. And in the beginning, it was really, really hard for me to do because I'm a good person and I love everybody. So if you brought your two boys in and I spent an hour and a half with them and I didn't get a full haircut, I'd be like, Kathryn, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to charge you, right? But I'm also just giving up an hour of my day where I could have done 2 adult haircuts and made $100 and something to feed my family. There's only so much of that I can do before I'm broke and I don't have any money. And then I realized, okay, well, are they paying for the haircut or are they paying for what we're actually doing? So if I'm waiting till the haircut's done to say, hey, Kathryn, we got a good haircut, that'll be $60. At that point, it's a regular haircut price. They've sat for the haircut. So what they're paying for is for us to rehabilitate them and us to work with them one-on-one and be able to be patient. And unfortunately, some moms can't afford that, and I feel bad about that. But there's only so much that I can do. And that's where this nonprofit ties in, where I finally found a way that I can now come and do it for free. Because I'm not going to ask you for the money. I'm going to ask the owner of the Worcester Railers that has a whole bunch of money and is a really good guy. Hey, can you help us change some lives and help some kids rehabilitate their experience in a barbershop? And that's when I realized, okay, I got something. Because now I don't have to charge the parents. I can charge people that have it to give and that want to help support. And then everybody's happy. I get to feed my family. These people get a great experience and a free haircut and some advice as to how to move on for the future. And the world's a better place, And
if Pepsi wants to pay for those haircuts, I think that's a good idea.
I think so too. We'll give a free Pepsi to every kid.
That's right. Although that'll be great.
Right.
What happens next?
Let me give you a little tour of the shop.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Awesome. Short story. I got the barbershop. It was only one side on a handshake and a deal. And then we had it for a while. And during the pandemic, I was ready to leave because I wanted a bigger spot. We had 6 people in there. And my landlord came in and said, well, what if I could open the other side for you? And I was like, Phil, I was ready to tell you we were giving our notice. And we opened the other side of the barbershop. And everything went well. This is Phil. He's my partner. He's the one that's the most compassionate guy I know. And he's been really killing it and doing a great, great, great job. Awesome. So we'll have Phil open the door. This is the original side that we had. It used to only just be this side. We got Mike here. We got our client. We got Lauren hiding. And we got the 4 chairs on this side. Got all these cool. I mean, everything just kind of came itself. Like we just started putting things on the wall. This is a lot of stuff that I had at the house that my wife wouldn't let me keep. So I had to find a place to put it all, you know?
Yeah.
We've had clients gifted us all this art. That's my grandfather up there. And it just became a community barbershop where it started to grow with all our clients. And everybody was like, hey, I found this cool thing and let me send you this and look at this. And we got, local art by the local artists that we sell. And, we got a big ping pong table in here and a punching bag that the kids absolutely love. Little ping pong table. I don't get to play this much because I'm working most of the day. And this is my station, which I was going to put this mirror on the wall. And one of my barbers was like, dude, you have to make that your station. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. My cousin made all the actual stations by hand for me. Basically, I had nothing and no means to open all this. And I had a lot of people that were willing to help and willing to do stuff for free. And this place all built up around it, We got a little bar that we use for lunch, and we have events sometimes. We do comedy shows and car shows, and a little waiting area. And it's just kind of like, to me, it's walking into your grandmother's house and feeling like home. It's not some stale white barbershop with metal uncomfortable chairs and nobody's talking to each other and everybody's miserable. It's a nice little place where you walk in, everybody says hi to you, everybody says bye to you. I come in the morning, I shake all the clients here. I shake, how you doing? How's your day today? And, I just do that because I'm a good person and that's just my personality, right? But as I read reviews and I see everybody say, wow, the owner's, it's a good guy. He comes in, he shakes everybody's hand, asks you how you doing today. Like, not enough people do that. Not enough people talk to people, and everybody's buried in their phones and their electronics. And it's like, put the phone down, talk to somebody, ask someone how their day is, how they're doing, what's going on. Everybody likes to assume that everybody's got this great life, and people are struggling. My first client today was just like, man, I'm having a hard time. And, I'm dealing with the stuff with the wife and I don't have any friends. And I'm like, well, you got me. I'm your friend now. You can call me anytime you want. I'll pick up the phone. I'll answer. I get it. Life is hard. It's tough. I mean, we all need somebody and we all need people. So
listen, I have one question. When you have the kids come in, is the music really loud, or do you turn the music? Because that's always been a big trigger. At least I've noticed on all barbershops that I've noticed there's a lot of music.
It depends. We do sometimes keep the music on. Usually it's not very loud, especially when the kids are here. And at first glance, you might look at the shop and be like, whoa, that's hectic there. But it almost kind of works because the kids always have something to focus on. They always have something to look at. It doesn't, to me, some of the barbershops nowadays are really clinical looking. They're kind of intimidating, and it's like, oh, I can't touch nothing. These kids can throw toys around on the floor. We give them the volleyball. It's like, and a lot of times, sometimes some of our adult clients you can tell they're kind of like, geez, what is going on? But I'm like, hey, man, the kids get free reign of the shop. They're more important than you are. Like, we have a little, I don't know if you see it, this little firefighter truck here, which it's antique and it's worth over $400. And I just let the kids absolutely destroy it because it's really cool and they love it. And like, my barbers don't really love it because it's loud and obnoxious and noisy, but it helps us get the kids' haircut and the kids really enjoy it. So if you come to this barbershop and you've been here a few times, like you kind of know that like the kids are the bosses around here. Like they call the show, we live in their world and we're just existing in it. And that's kind of how we operate when kids come in. It's a lot of fun. We let them throw balls around and I'll kind of even break the ice with the parents and be like, hey, you want to play with something dangerous? We got razor blades and brass knuckles. And it kind of, you could see the tension relieved from the parents when we start talking like that. Cause they're like, okay, these kids get it. Obviously they're not really going to give my kid razor.
When you walk into Justin's barbershop, you walk into a place of understanding, compassion, and respect. It's a two-way street. It's a place of inclusion, and parents really get a chance to have a break and know that their kid's going to get a haircut and have fun.
Right. Fun is the main part. So my number one thing with the kids, and I tell parents all the time, listen, if they leave here happy, they come back happy. And that's our main goal. If he's got half a haircut and he's clearly had enough of the haircut, we call the haircut, say, Mom, we'll see you next time. this isn't a marathon. I mean, this isn't a sprint. It's a marathon, you know? Yes, I could hold them down and give them a haircut for your funeral or your wedding or your whatever, but you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life. What do we care, Ma? Let them run around with half a haircut for the next 2 weeks, because in the next few months, you're not going to have to worry about this ever again. And you're going to be able to take them on vacation and get them a haircut and whatever. So we want them to leave here happy. And that's the number one thing. Whatever we have to do to make that happen, it's what we do. And we have them come back. And sometimes we tell them, we like them to come within every 6 weeks, because we found that after 6 weeks, it starts to reset. They start to forget. We need to keep this going. And sometimes I'll say, hey, look, come in every 6 weeks, but every 3 weeks, come back and don't get a haircut. And let them come in. You don't even got to, you can just wave to us, let them run around, play, get to know the guys, because then it starts to mess with their psyche and they realize, hey, this place is kind of fun. I like this place. And I don't always have to get a haircut when I'm here. So it just helps break down that barrier for the kid, you know, and it does work. We're not selling snake oil. It's the proof is in the pudding. All you need to do is just let me get my hands on your child and watch what happens and take it from there, you know? So that's what we're here to do.
2 things I want to say, just because self-advocacy is really important for parents, and not everybody is your shop. For example, my boys, if they say, hey, it's kind of, sometimes like the music is really loud. Like one of my boys, he kind of wants to go to like a really loud barbershop because he wants a low taper fade. So, and my hair, our place, she can do it. We go to her house. But if a parent and a child is really sensitive to loud music, what do you recommend for like self-advocacy? Because are you pretty sensitive to that about music?
I'm definitely sensitive to that. I get overwhelmed very easily. One of my barbers, Lauren, loves to turn the music on and this and that. And if there's too much going on and too much, like I have a lot of sensory issues, I'll be like, I can't do this. You know, the other day it was some like techno music, and I'm like, I'm trying to think, I'm trying to cut hair, I'm trying to talk to this person about my nonprofit. Like, I need it quiet. So over the years, I never thought I'd say this, but I like a lot of country music and a lot of kind of lower, softer jazz and blues. And so I'm really aware of what's happening in my shop and what's about to happen. So I know when we have a sensory haircut coming in, and I'll be proactive and I'll change the music to something, or we'll turn the music off altogether. But as far as like a mom goes, like you just have to speak up and you just have to be like, hey, could you guys turn the music down a little bit? My son's a little sensitive to that. And if they take that well, then that's your shop. And if not, go find another shop to go. Because some people just don't understand, you know, they really don't.
That's great advice. I usually call in advance and kind of give a friendly note. Justin, thank you so much for showing us your shop. We look forward to amplifying your nonprofit and anything that you're doing. We've got to have a pop-up for the Savants. We've got to join this global movement of what you are doing. It's more than a haircut. You are changing the world, Justin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to doing more with you guys, and let's make that happen. And at the very least, I'd like to give your son a low taper fade.
Low taper fade.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I really, really, really appreciate it. And let's make this a long-lasting relationship, and let's get out there and change some lives.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for what you do every single day.
Of course. Just doing my job. That's it.